In this video, I'm going to show you the Ortega method for 2x2. This is a great method that can easily get your times down to 3 or 4 seconds. This method has 3 steps. First, make a face. The pieces don't have to be in the correct places. Next, orient the pieces of the top side. And last, permute the pieces on both layers. Ortega gives you a lot more flexibility when doing the first side since the pieces don't have to be in the correct places. For instance, you could put those 2 pieces together like that and they're not correct, but that's perfectly fine, and then you can just move that bar in. If you have a case like this where you're doing white and you already have the block here, you don't have to worry about where these 2 pieces are. You can just put this one right in. It's pretty rare to see a scramble where there aren't 2 pieces already together, and you can usually finish up the side with just a few moves. I'd highly recommend being color neutral if you're not already. That will allow you to be even less limited when making your first side. There will almost always be a side that can be completed in just a few moves. So at the end of this step, you'll either have a layer where all the pieces are in the correct places, a layer where 2 adjacent pieces need to be swapped, or a layer where 2 diagonal pieces need to be swapped. The next step is to orient the last layer. If you currently use the layer by layer method, then you already know all of the OLL algs, so you can skip this step. If you don't already know the OLL algs, the first case is the soon. There's one corner oriented and the rest need to be rotated clockwise. The alg for this case is R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. The next case is the anti-soon, where again, one corner is oriented, but the rest need to be rotated counterclockwise. This time, hold the oriented corner in the back right and do R, U2, R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime. Next is the U case, where 2 corners are oriented and there's headlights on the left. The alg is F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. Next is the T case, where 2 corners are oriented and the headlights are sticking out to the sides. The alg is R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R, F prime. Next is the L case, where 2 opposite corners are oriented and you hold it like this. The alg is F, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime. Next is the pi case, where no corners are oriented and there's headlights on the left. The alg is F, R, U, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And the last case is the H case, where there's headlights in the back and the front. The alg for this case is R2, U2, R, U2, R2. The final step is permuting both layers. The first case is a completed bottom layer and an adjacent swap on the top. To complete this case, you can use the T-perm algorithm from 3x3, which is R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R2, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime. Alternatively, you could use the J-A perm alg from 3x3, hold the bar facing you, and do R prime, U, L prime, U2, R, U prime, R prime, U2, L, R, U prime. The next case is a completed bottom layer and a diagonal swap on the top. For this case, you can use the Y perm alg from 3x3, which is F, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime, F prime, R, U, R prime, U prime, R prime, F, R, F prime. Alternatively, you could use a shorter alg that goes R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F2, U prime, R, U, R prime, D, R2. When both sides have a diagonal swap, the alg is R2, F2, R2. For the case with two adjacent swaps, hold the bars in the back and do R2, U prime, R2 prime, U2 prime, F2, U prime, R2. For a diagonal swap on the bottom and an adjacent swap on the top, hold the bar in front and do R, U prime, R, F2, R prime, U, R prime. The last case is an adjacent swap on the bottom and a diagonal swap on the top. You could just rotate and do the previous alg, or you could do L, D prime, L, F2, L prime, D, L prime. After PBL, you may have to do an AUF, and that's it. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!